can I talk to you for a minute?
Sure, I don't mind. What's up?
Why are you treating Dad so coldly? Just a little while ago, he seemed really hurt and walked off somewhere by himself.
Do you love Dad, Mom?
How, of course I do. Why would you even ask?
I could tell you the reason why I act this way toward him, but it might hurt you. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready. Just tell me.
Okay, here it is. I think Dad's having an affair.
What? My son suddenly claimed that my husband was having an affair. However, there was no tension between me and my husband, and he had always been responsible with his work. I couldn't believe my son's words. That said, my son's IQ is 140. I assume he's not saying this without proof. I asked my son for more details, and we checked the facts together. It's been 15 years since I got married. It seems like I've been cheated on for 10 years. And now, my husband is probably planning a trip with the woman he's cheating on me with. Could it be, since back then, looks like I've been cheated on for 10 whole years? Now, I need to reconsider my relationship with him. When I glanced at my son's face, his expression had changed slightly.
Looks like you're hurt, Mom. I can't forgive Dad for this. Mind if I make him regret it?
My son seemed to have a plan. I decided to go along with it. My name is Emily. I'm 42 and just an ordinary office worker. I've been married for 15 years to my husband, Simon, who is 3 years older than me and works as a salesperson. He's got decent results at work, but he's not someone particularly extraordinary. We met through mutual friends. It wasn't anything dramatic, and we didn't have some huge love story that led to marriage either. The only slightly unusual thing about us is that we had a kid before we got married. But even that's not so uncommon these days. We're pretty much the textbook example of an average married couple. Still, there's one thing we can really boast about, something that makes us proud.
Well, another great score. You got a perfect 100 in social studies.
Well, compared to the tests at my tutoring center, school tests aren't that hard.
Still, it's impressive. When I was in middle school, the best I could do was a 70.
You can't compare yourself to him.
Our son always brought home high scores. Every time he did, my husband and I would celebrate. Our son, Harry, is 15. He's about to enter a tough phase with high school entrance exams coming up, but we're not worried at all. He's so smart that sometimes I wonder if he's really our child. Honestly, I think he's already smarter than both of us. We first realized how bright our son was when he was 4 years old. Back then, he often clashed with the other kids around him. His kindergarten teacher told us that Harry would talk to his friends, and then out of nowhere, they'd get upset. I asked him why he kept saying things that made his friends mad. Did you make your friend mad again today? Why do you always say things that upset them?
Well, if you grab a bunch of paper and rip it up, the glue will be easier to use, right? I told them that, and they said I was annoying.
I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but it seemed like he was giving advice to his friends. However, they wanted to do things their own way, and that's how the argument started. Even after that, Harry kept having these conflicts with his friends, and no matter how much we asked, we couldn't make sense of it. So, my husband and I wondered if he might have some developmental issues and decided to take him to a doctor. At the hospital, they ran an IQ test to objectively assess his development. Hearing the results, my husband and I were surprised.
Harry's IQ is 140.
Is 140 really that high?
100 is the average, so yes, it's quite high.
But Harry doesn't seem to be great at conversations. Sometimes we have no idea what he's talking about.
That's probably because he's only 4 years old and doesn't have the vocabulary or expressions to explain what he understands. He likely gets the concepts but can't articulate them well, so he just uses the important words. I just spoke with him, and he was using words like because and but. This shows he's able to think things through and form his own conclusions.
But he often makes his friends mad.
That's also a common trait among smart kids. Harry's brain works fast, so he probably figures things out quicker than his friends and tries to give them advice. But since Harry's thoughts are ahead of theirs, they don't understand, and that's likely why they clash. Adults experience that too, right? Even if someone's saying something correct, if it's too complicated, we can get frustrated because we don't understand.
I see. So Harry's a genius, and we just weren't able to understand him.
Well, you could look at it that way, but keep in mind, the IQ of 140 is just a snapshot in time, and it can change as he grows, so don't get too fixated on the number. Many parents get carried away thinking their child is brilliant and push them too hard with studies.
We'll be careful, thank you. The doctor warned us not to place too much pressure on Harry just because of his high IQ. Seeing us look pleased when we heard IQ 140, the doctor probably became concerned. But I think there's no parent who wouldn't be happy to hear that their child is smart. Learning that Harry's IQ was 140 made everything about his behavior that seemed odd suddenly make sense. When we bought him books, he'd quickly ask for more. We thought he was just easily bored, but it turned out he remembered everything he read, so he wanted the next book. He would sometimes just stare at the TV remote and then start pressing different buttons. We thought he was just messing around, but he was probably curious about how the remote worked. While I was thrilled about Harry's intelligence, I was also glad that I finally understood his behavior. He showed interest in many things and absorbed knowledge with great focus. The doctor had said IQ could change over time, but Harry stayed sharp as ever. I felt happy just imagining the bright future ahead of him. However, around this time, a darker future was creeping in without me noticing. After Harry took the IQ test, my husband started working harder than ever. He stayed late at work, and on weekends, he'd go out, saying he was studying for work. I appreciated his dedication, but I began to worry that he was pushing himself too hard. It's great that you're working hard, but are you sure you're okay? You know a lot of people get sick from overworking.
Don't worry about me. Once Harry starts elementary school, we'll have more expenses. He might want to go to a tutoring center. Or we might send him to a private school, right? Besides, Harry's so smart that I need to show I'm at least putting in the effort to keep up as a parent.
His joking response reassured me that he wasn't overdoing it. Once Harry entered elementary school, his vocabulary and expressions improved, and it became easier to understand him.
Why do I need to ask the teacher's permission just to go to the washroom during class? Is going to the washroom really something you need permission for?
Well, if you just leave without saying anything, the teacher won't know where you went, right?
Oh, I see. But wouldn't it be easier if we had a sign on our desk that says washroom? Then I wouldn't have to stop class to ask, and the teacher would know where I went.
But don't you think some kids might use that sign as an excuse to skip class instead of going to the washroom?
If someone skips class, they're the ones who will suffer for it later, so why not just leave them alone?
It's not that simple. If something happens, the teacher is responsible.
Having to enforce rules and take responsibility, being an adult sounds like a hassle.
Harry has become much better at conversation compared to when he was in kindergarten, but he's so logical that it sometimes makes him come across as a bit dry. Also, his fast thinking still puts him out of sync with other kids, just like back in kindergarten. However, Harry seems to be aware of how quickly his mind works and is trying to find ways to adapt to those around him. One of those ways is that, by the time he reached 5th grade, he developed an interest in psychology. He probably figured that understanding people's mental states would help him better connect with others. It's an unusually mature thought for an elementary school student, more like the kind of strategy an adult might use when dealing with coworkers. My husband is still working hard, as always. However, the part where he wanted to maintain his authority as a father doesn't seem to be working out too well.
Your job's in sales, right? Do you enjoy it?
Well, work isn't always fun, but in sales, you're out meeting people, so you're kind of the face of the company. It's rewarding.
But since you're often out of the office, aren't there people who slack off?
Well, yeah, I guess there are some people like that, but I'm not one of them.
I never said you were slacking off, Dad.
Oh, right.
Harry tries to fit in with others. He might be a bit dry at times, but he doesn't look down on people. Yet for some reason, he seems particularly cold toward his father.
Do you think Harry dislikes me?
I don't think so. He knows how hard you work.
But you don't respond to me the way he does.
Well, maybe that's because it's true what they say. Fathers can't quite compete with mothers when it comes to raising kids.
There's no way I can win with that argument.
My husband has fallen into the classic fatherly dilemma. Since Harry is so logical, trying to change how we interact with him or attempting to win him over with gifts would likely backfire. I guess my husband's only choice is to work even harder and show Harry that he's a great dad. But for now, Harry keeps growing. After graduating from elementary school, he entered the local middle school. Now in 8th grade, it's time for him to start seriously preparing for high school entrance exams. However, with Harry, there's no need to rush, and I'm not worried at all. What I am concerned about is that Harry, now 14, seems to be going through puberty.
You'll get stressed if you study all the time. It's Sunday. How about we go out somewhere?
I like studying, so I don't get stressed. Honestly, being dragged somewhere I don't want to go is more stressful.
Oh, I see. Sorry about that then. Keep up the good work with your studies.
By the way, where were you planning to take me?
Oh, I was thinking maybe a museum. Instead of just seeing pictures in your textbooks, you could see the real art. Wouldn't that be a good experience?
Have you ever been to a museum, Dad?
No, but I figured it'd be good for you. What do you think? Does it sound interesting now?
Didn't you hear me say by the way?
Harry ended the conversation with his father and left the living room. Left behind, my husband looked like he'd just been heartbroken and slowly wandered out of the house on his own. Watching this exchange, I couldn't help but feel sorry for him. Over the past 3 years, Harry had become even colder toward his father. It's starting to feel a bit unfair. I decided to talk to Harry to help my husband out. Harry, are you studying? Can I talk to you for a minute?
Sure, I don't mind. What's up?
When I went to his room, he stopped studying and turned to talk to me. I couldn't help but think that if it had been his dad, Harry would have probably told him to leave because he was studying. Why is he so cold toward his father? If I tried to be subtle, Harry would probably pick up on what I really wanted to ask right away. So, I decided to ask directly. Why do you treat your father so coldly? He looked really hurt and just went off somewhere by himself. Harry looked like he was pondering a difficult problem. As I waited for his answer, the room became quiet, and I felt a strange tension building. After a while, Harry began to speak with a serious expression.
Mom, do you love Dad?
How, of course, I do. I was taken aback by his unexpected question. I answered honestly, but it only made Harry's expression more serious.
That sounded pretty genuine.
Well, it is.
I could tell you why I'm cold to him, but it would probably hurt you. Are you ready for that?
What are you talking about? I was confused by Harry's words. It felt like I was talking to the Harry from when he was in kindergarten. Back when he struggled to express his thoughts but understood so much. Even now, I could tell he was thinking deeply and had come to some kind of conclusion before asking me. I had a feeling that if I heard the reason, I would indeed be hurt, just like Harry said. But if I wanted to improve the relationship between my husband and son, I had to know. I braced myself and made a decision. It's okay if I get hurt. Please tell me why.
That sounds pretty real too. Alright, I'll tell you. I think Dad's probably cheating.
What? Harry's unexpected words left me stunned and confused. My husband cheating? Our marriage wasn't in trouble, and he was always dedicated to his work. I couldn't bring myself to believe Harry's words. That can't be right. What's gotten into you, saying something like that all of a sudden?
I'm still just speculating, but Dad lies all the time. Especially about work stuff. So, I think he might be having an affair with someone from work.
Lies all the time. When has he lied?
He lied just now. He said he's never been to a museum, but I think he has. Remember when I was in 5th grade and reading all those psychology books? That's when I learned how to spot a lie.
You mean by observing eye contact and voice tone? Can you really tell if someone's lying that way?
The method I use is a little more advanced. It's about leading the conversation and watching for micro-expressions when someone lies. Like when I asked you earlier, Mom, you hesitated, and then you made up your mind, right? I draw those kinds of reactions out and observe you.
So, you've been spotting your dad's lies ever since you were in 5th grade?
Yeah. The first time I noticed was when I asked him if he ever slacked off at work. He wasn't slacking, but something seemed off. When I put together all the lies he's told over the past 3 years, it all points to an affair. But like I said, it's purely speculation. Even so, I really think Dad's cheating. How could I get along with him if I believe that?
Even though Harry is smart, I still find it hard to believe that he can spot lies that easily. But as long as Harry thinks my husband is cheating, this problem isn't going away. I started thinking about how to get Harry to get along with his father again.
If I could be sure Dad wasn't cheating, that would solve it.
Well, I see. It felt like Harry could read my mind. Maybe he really can tell when people are lying. But how would we prove he's not having an affair?
Mom, I need your help to check just one thing. It's something I can't do by myself.
All right, what do you need me to do?
I looked into it, and if Dad's been using his credit card for dates with someone, we'd be able to tell from the transaction history.
I see, but we don't get paper statements anymore. Your dad switched to online statements. Come to think of it, I only ever check the total amount through our bank account. I have no idea what he's been using the card for.
That's a classic move to avoid getting caught. Let's check the online statements. By the way, is your card a family card?
Yes, it is. Why?
That's actually better. It's illegal to check someone else's card history without permission, but since it's a family card, your and Dad's transactions are listed together, right? So it's only natural that we'd see his history.
Sounds like a gray area.
Do you know the login ID and password?
Yes, I have all our important passwords written down. I'm sure I can find it. I started feeling like a detective and got a bit excited. I knew I was about to do something that involved suspecting my husband, but I figured I could explain later, and he'd understand. Actually, he might even thank me for helping mend his relationship with our son. So, I sat down with Harry and checked the credit card transactions on the computer. What we found was shocking. What's going on? This
place is clearly a motel, isn't it? And it looks like he's been going every week or two. And before each visit, there's always a restaurant charge. They must be having dinner first.
I was hit with a wave of disbelief, like being struck by a hammer. I had never imagined my husband would cheat. But Harry, who had suspected him from the start, seemed completely calm. Why? Why would he cheat?
From what I've read, cheating doesn't always have a reason. Even in happy families, some people still cheat. They might just see someone they like and act on impulse. So, trying to figure out why is a waste of time. Even if there's a reason, it wouldn't justify it. And we don't need to understand the mindset of someone who cheats, do we?
Yeah, you're right. but he never showed any signs of having an affair.
Mom, you've been watching too many TV series and online videos. Do you really think there are obvious signs of cheating or that you just stumble upon it by chance? Affairs are secret by nature, so of course, he'd hide it. In reality, it's probably more like this. People don't realize until they're hit with the truth, and it's something they never saw coming.
While I was in shock over the idea of my husband's affair, Harry calmly continued checking through the online statements.
We can only check back about a year. I wonder when this started. The length of time matters in an affair, right?
He started saying he wanted to work harder about 10 years ago. Could it have been since then? It feels like I've been cheated on for 10 years.
You remember something from 10 years ago?
I remember because it was right after you took the IQ test. I couldn't deny it anymore. I had accepted that my husband was having an affair. The fact that I hadn't noticed a single thing made the shock of discovering the affair all the more painful. Honestly, it would have been easier if we'd had arguments, or if I'd caught the scent of some unfamiliar perfume on him. Now, I had to reconsider my relationship with him. When I glanced at Harry, his usually calm expression had changed slightly.
Mom, it really hurt you, didn't it? I can't let this slide. Want me to make Dad regret this?
Harry clearly had a plan. I decided to go along with it. After discovering my husband's affair, I pretended I didn't know and continued our daily life as usual.
I've got a business trip next week.
It's been a while since you had one. When are you going?
I leave on Thursday, and the job finishes up on Friday, but I'll stay an extra night and come back leisurely on Saturday.
Thursday morning, my husband left for his trip. After seeing him off, I had to head out as well. All right, I'm going to. I made some food and put it in the fridge, so you can just have some bread, right? And be sure to lock the doors and be careful with the stove.
Don't worry, Mom. You should relax too, since you're taking time off work.
I left Harry in charge and headed out with my travel suitcase. I boarded the train and headed to the spa resort I had booked. It had been a long time since I'd been to a spa. Even though it was just a one-night trip, I was looking forward to relaxing in the spa and unwinding. When I arrived, the resort hotel was even more impressive than the photos. It made me want to explore. After dropping my bags in my room, I wandered around the hotel, snapping pictures with my phone. The details were stunningly beautiful. I'd show Harry the videos when I got back. I relaxed in the spa, enjoyed a delicious meal, and felt completely content. The next morning, after checking out, I didn't leave right away, but sat down in the lobby. After waiting for a while, I saw a familiar face walk in, with an unfamiliar woman. I stood up and approached them. "Oh, fancy seeing you here. Have you visited the famous waterfall yet? Or are you heading out for sightseeing now?"
What? What are you doing here?
My husband reacted exactly as I expected. I told him it was a coincidence, but of course, it wasn't. I had deliberately targeted his affair and come here. I checked the online statement. You paid a travel agency with your credit card, didn't you? I called that agency. When we were looking at the online statement, Harry noticed the payment to a travel agency. Once we had the company name, I called them, pretending I had lost the brochure and needed another. I was a bit nervous about picking up the brochure in person. If my husband had been there with his affair partner, they might recognize that I wasn't the one going on the trip. Luckily, the staff deal with so many customers that they didn't remember his face. I easily got the brochure and found out where he was going. I also casually confirmed the hotel details. Is this picture from the hotel where we'll be staying?
No, the one you'll be staying at is in this picture.
The trip coincided with the business trip he had mentioned, so it was easy to figure out. Once I knew the destination and dates, I showed up at the scene of the affair. So, this must be your affair partner.
What are you talking about all of a sudden? I told you this is a business trip. This is a coworker.
Even without Harry's skills, it was obvious that he was lying. The fact that I could see him trying to stay calm while panicking made it clear. I see now how Harry spotted his lies all this time. Oh, a coworker, thank you always for taking care of my husband. May I have your business card, please? My husband and the woman exchanged glances, silently communicating. After a moment, the woman reluctantly pulled a business card from her wallet and handed it to me.
See, it's the same company I work for. She's a coworker. Now you can see it's just a misunderstanding. Go home.
Got it. So, she's from your company, but if she's a coworker, isn't it inappropriate to stay in the same hotel room?
How do you even know that?
Barely holding back my laughter, I showed him the video I had recorded on my phone the previous day. It showed him with the woman at various points, including entering the same hotel room together. Videos and photos of staying at the same hotel room, just like entering a motel, are solid proof of an affair.
What are you doing? Filming us like that? It's a violation of privacy.
It's not secret filming. I was just recording my solo trip, and you happened to walk into the frame. If you want to complain about my travel video, should you tell the other tourists too? Look, that couple over there is taking a picture. We may be filmed at that angle. Maybe you should go tell them not to include you. There was no way he could do that. My husband glared at me in frustration. That's about all he could do at this point. This was Harry's plan. The credit card history alone wasn't enough to prove the affair, so we came up with a strategy to catch him in the act. However, every plan I suggested was shot down by Harry. How about we plant a listening device in his bag?
That's illegal, and the battery would die quickly.
Then how about hiring a private investigator?
Hiring a private investigator is really expensive, you know? I think it's about $200 an hour. Just a rough estimate, but if the trip is 3 days, and we have the investigator follow them for about 18 hours a day when they're not sleeping, that's $3,600 a day, $10,800 for 3 days. And that's without factoring in travel and lodging costs. It's just not practical.
Then what about?
Mom, stop. You've been watching too many TV series and online videos again. Let's think of something more realistic.
In the end, it was Harry who came up with the plan to call the travel agency and record my husband's affair on video during the trip. I felt embarrassed that I couldn't contribute anything. But,
Mom, you're the only one who could pull off this plan. It'd be weird if I called the travel agency and picked up the brochure or stayed at a hotel by myself, right? So, this was a team effort. I came up with the plan, and you executed it.
as expected from my son, with an IQ of 140 and a background in psychology, he not only devised the plan but also took care of my emotional well-being. You two are staying another night, right? Enjoy your time. We'll discuss the affair and the divorce when you get back. I returned from the trip feeling refreshed and with solid proof of my husband's affair. After that, the divorce went smoothly, thanks to the evidence. Naturally, I got full custody of Harry, and my ex-husband had to pay alimony and child support. However, if things ended here with him and his affair partner getting together, it wouldn't feel like proper revenge. That's why Harry had prepared one more move after the trip.
I was right. Dad's affair partner was from work, wasn't she? So, we'll shake things up by informing the company.
I see. You'll let the company know that they were having an affair at work and get them punished.
No, affairs are private matters, so the company can't really discipline them for that. And if we go around telling everyone unnecessarily, we could be sued for defamation. Seriously, Mom, stop relying on TV series and video knowledge.
Sorry, but then what's your plan?
You brought back the affair partner's business card, right?
Yes, I did.
And you didn't talk to her or ask Dad about her?
I did exactly as you told me.
Good. That means we only know her name and workplace from the card.
Exactly.
Now, when we demand compensation for the affair, we'll send a certified mail, right? Normally, those have to be sent to the person's home. But all we know is her name and where she works. So, we can send it to her workplace.
I see. If a letter about the affair settlement arrives at the office, it would spread the news about the affair at work, making it uncomfortable for them to be there.
Actually, it's a bit different. Since certified mail can't be opened by anyone else, no one would know the content is about an affair. But rumors about affairs do tend to spread easily in the office, right? I'm sure there are already rumors about it at their workplace. And then a mysterious certified letter arrives. Plus, Dad is getting divorced. After that, everyone will add their own details and spread the story even more.
Just as Harry predicted. Rumors about the affair spread through their workplace, and the two couldn't handle the pressure and ended up leaving their jobs. However, there was one thing Harry didn't foresee. The affair partner was also married. She tried to keep her husband from finding out, but once I demanded compensation, it blew her cover. Now, her husband is filing for divorce and also planning to sue for damages. With their careers and personal lives falling apart, my ex-husband and his affair partner didn't have the strength to face this mess together. In the end, they broke up, fighting until the bitter end. And with that, my revenge on my ex-husband, who had betrayed me for 10 years without batting an eye, was complete. Now that I had settled things with him and looked back on everything, I realized something. I had watched Harry plan out his strategy, but he didn't know everything from the start. He researched what he didn't know and applied what he learned. It wasn't just having knowledge that made him smart, it was knowing how to use it. That's what I learned from my son. As for Harry, I had been worried that the divorce would upset him. But it turns out that worry was unnecessary.
I've been feeling uneasy about Dad since elementary school. Now that it's all settled, I can focus on studying again.
Amazingly, Harry still has plenty of room to grow in his studies. What's more, this whole situation sparked an interest in law for him.
The law is like a word game, it's fascinating. Plus, you can make people like Dad, who do bad things, reflect on their actions.
He's even talking about pursuing a career in law. That's probably going to cost quite a bit in tuition. But I've made up my mind, I'll work hard for my son's future.